Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone around the world. Welcome back to another One Piece video featuring a brand new post-Nerf Zoro update for the channel here. For those of you that don't know, Dan, Nami got exiled. We no longer can use them in our competitive decks whatsoever. They have been gutted. Unfortunately, Whitebeard is no longer a thing. Marco 5-drop has been limited to 1. So this deck right here is going to feature the brand new changes and how I'm going to go about in the future to playing Zoro with, tweaks here and there. But we're coming back from a locals up to, I think it was a 31 or 30 people local. We got 4-1. Our only loss was to Rebecca. Other than that, we're going to dive into it and show you what we're working with here. Let's get to it. And we're going to be taking 4 Jozu. This package is no longer a Straw Hat variant generally. This is going to be a Whitebeard Pirate Zoro. So we should see a little bit of a difference with this new metagame. It's more aggro based in my opinion. It's very, very strong. You're hitting 9 to 10 Ks almost every turn in the late game if need be. But we are still running your 4 Otamas. This is necessary. I know some Zoro lists were running 2 before and they're running 4 Makinos. Considering you lose your Dedan, you lose your Nami, that's a little bit of extra power in the early game you don't have. So, i.e., your Makinos, as you were running 4 of, again, you can't boost the Nami anymore. So, I mean, that's a body down. We don't really need to run 4 Makinos now, because your 1-drops would consist of Whitebeard variants, which would be Izo, right? Izo is always going to be here. It's a staple card. This deck particularly, I think you have like 16 or 17 hits off the top of my head, if I remember. So you shouldn't be whiffing at all with Izo. You should always be getting the unit at some point. And then we're taking staple buggies. The deck is still event focused. I believe we have 16 events in the deck right now, and yeah, a little bit different. Again, we're running a heavier Whitebeard variant, okay? So for me, I take 3 Pawses. We are not running Chopper, right? And I do think Chopper is good or was good in Zoro beforehand, but now the deck has changed quite a bit without the Nami here. We have to adapt. And I do think blockers going forward for Zoro are going to be very, very strong, let alone just the meta in general. I think blockers are going to be really, really good because we are going to be running up against a lot of Katakuris, so a lot of big moms. We're going to see it, unfortunately. Crocodiles and all that sort of thing. They have a lot of blockers. Queens have a lot of blockers. You got to get your bodies ready to go to defend yourself from a lot of things when it comes to Zoro. A lot of people don't like attacking into Zoro because, your triggers are pretty strong. So they like to clear your board. And considering you have a lot of weenie drops, it might be a better idea for you guys to be able to protect them a little bit better. And this is why I opted to take Pawse. I'm not running 4s. I don't think I actually need to get up to 4 Pawses. If I do, we will take out some cards later, and I will show you which ones I would recommend. We're taking Flamencos. 2 Flamencos. I don't think any more than 2 is necessary. This card hits so many things into the game right now. You get your Katakuris go down from 8k to 6k. You're hitting your big moms from 8k to 6k. You know what I mean? When you attach a Don to this and you swing, you minus 2k on any creature, any character on your opponent's side of the field. Not leaders, just characters. So that lets you hit other cards, i.e. your Vistas can hit something. Your Jet Pistols can hit something. You know what I mean? Fire Fist. This card is very, very solid. And then we go into our 3-drops, which Zoro I think is going to be a staple here, especially with our events. I think Zoro is still really good in either version. This guy allows you to get an extra hit in. We all know what Zoro does. He's very, very strong in either version of the build. We're taking 3 Vistas today, okay? Not 4, not 2, 3. I want to see him at least once a game, regardless of what I play against. Again, it allows you to hit a lot of yellow cards as well. In the early game, it allows you to hit a lot of blockers in blue. You can get rid of the Dofi blockers with a minus from either your Bolmenko or your Otama, all those sort of things. It allows you to pop cards that your opponents aren't ready for. Even other Zoro players, which you still will probably run into. And you might run into essential laws, but I doubt it, considering the nerf on law is more effective, right? Let's be fair. But I do think Vista is still pretty good. I will be opted to cut this down if need be. Run your 1 copy of your Marco, your blocker Marco, considering that's all that we can do right now is only have 1 of these because they have been banned. So, or restricted, excuse me. And then we go with 1 copy of your 5-drop Marco. This card is still staple. It's a very, very sticky card in Whitebeard Zoro and Zoro in general and Red in general. It does so much work for you. And again, with all your minusing effects, with your Flamenco, your Otamas, it allows Marco to hit some pretty good cards too. and it gives you a body on the board that your opponent has to deal with at some point. And if they can't, and you know what, hey, it's a 7k every time it swings, considering 1 dot under Zoro makes it a 7. Very, very strong. And we take 2 Luffys. Again, this is not a Straw Hat variant build, but the Luffy and the Zoro give you a lot of pressure that your opponents probably aren't going to be ready for, considering, again, no Nami, can't search these. But this is a game finisher. I highly assure you this will be a game finisher for a lot of your situations. If you have a Luffy already in hand, if you don't need it, you can discard it for other cards that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But Luffy allows you to get that unblockable, considering we are not running Diablo Jambe. If you want to, you can opt in for it. I just feel Luffy's a better variant than taking, Diablo Jambe, if need be. And then 1 Whitebeard. Whitebeard is, of course, staple in Whitebeard variant Zoro, which would make sense. Now we're going to dive into our events. We're taking 2 copies of Gum Gum Jet Pistol, okay? This card is going to hit, again, a lot of cards in the format right now. Katakuri, Big Mom, the Paro Sparrow 8-drop. As long as you minus 2k power on them, this card can delete them. You just get them out of the game immediately. This is going to get rid of a lot of things for Rebecca, for instance, which is really, really good. Especially staple cards that allow her to do her shenanigans. You don't want those, like Olympus, for instance. You don't want him on the field at all. Kill him immediately, right? We're taking out 4 Fire Fist. I think this is still a staple card, regardless of the nerfs. This card is really, really good. It allows you to clear a lot of board presence, especially on decks when you're playing against yellow. You're playing yellow, blue, or yellow, blue, queen, all that sort of thing. They have a lot of weenie blockers. Fire Fist allows you to deal with that and clear the board at the same time. I run 1 copy of Fiery Doll. I do think Fiery Doll is really, really nice for a game finisher. For instance, with Zoro and Luffy on the same turn, you can pop up your leader and, of course, tack into that and drop a Luffy afterwards if they're not ready for it. 1 Radical Beam, of course, staple card, must need. Don't really need to talk about it. We take 3 guard points. Again, you can opt in to add in 1 more guard point by taking out either a Vista if need be, or you can take out one of these other events that you're going to see here in a second. We run 2 Whitebeard Pirates. The downside with this is, considering, you got to think of it like this. You had Dadan, you had Nami, you had Izo. All those guys gave you a body, and then you got to search, okay? With that being said, Whitebeard Pirates does not give you that body. It allows you to search for a body and then play it, but you don't get a body and a search at the same time. If that makes sense to you? Which is really, really good, but at the same time, it's not as good. So it does work for you, especially off a trigger, or if you just need to search for an Izo to play another, unit. It does in that situation. And then we run 2 Bad Manners. Now, Bad Manners, I think, is very, very good, especially when it comes to how many cards you've noticed in this list that we run that have counter power. We run 6 cards in this deck that do not have counter, which is 4 Zoros and 2 Luffys. In the late game, in the Whitebeard, so 7. In the late game, if you opt to not need any of those, they can be discard fodder for Bad Manners. And that's another reason why we don't run too many of them, because most of our cards have a use or have counter power to allow you to keep your units on board. Now, for situations that you want to swap units into, because I know there's a lot of cards you probably didn't see in this list, i.e. like a Gordon, for instance. This is another card in which I would add into the deck by taking out like a Vista, taking out 1 Bad Manners, for instance. This would be a pretty good substitute because Gordon minuses 3k and allows you to cycle it back through your deck, which is nice, right? But overall, my matchups went as follows. We played against 2 Blue Crocodiles with Zoro, and unfortunately, I figured it would have been much more of a challenge, but Blue still struggles versus aggro at the end of the day, and Zoro can just go, especially, again, in the later games. Before they drop down the Kaido that bounces 2 cards back to your hand, you're already hitting for 9s and 10Ks if need be. Because you have a lot more Dawn to spare, because you're not playing Marco and Marco and Marco, you know what I mean? Which is pretty substantial, because they have to pitch their hand to protect themselves. We played against a Purple Kaido, and then we played against 1 Rebecca, which we did lose against, unfortunately. It's very difficult for Zoro to play into Rebecca, considering, again, what Rebecca does. Her game plan is to pop all of our 1-drops, all of our early game power, which she does quite well. So that is still a tough matchup. But when it comes to playing into Mono Blue Croc, it's not that difficult for Zoro, as long as you draw well. And if you don't. don't draw as good, you can still get there with Zoro. And the last one I want to say was green, if I remember. But green right now in this format, it's not very good. Let's be fair. It's just not very good. We aren't looking at a lot of leaders who shine a lot other than blue, purple, Dofi. And I guess Kid is probably going to come back here with this new change. But other than that, that's it right now. Let's be fair. I know I might be missing somebody. I know someone's going to say something about Koro. And we'll get into Koro at some other point. I think he might be a sleeper, but we'll see how it goes. Other than that, this has been the list. I do hope you guys try it out. Let me know what your thoughts and your opinions down in the comment section. And stay safe out there. And I will see you guys in the very next update.